Do not buy these properties in 2025, and let me tell you why. My name is Jay, and welcome to my real estate channel. This is where you're going to learn all things design and real estate. In today's specific episode, I'm telling you about properties that you want to avoid in the new year, and let me exactly get into them right now. Okay, the first type of property you want to make sure you avoid are condominiums. Now, condominiums have a number of issues with them. One being that there are now some new regulations that have been put out here in South Florida, especially when it comes to condos and 40-year inspections and 10-year inspections. They have a lot of different rules that are out there on them, but a lot of that came from Surfside, which was an area in Miami Beach that had a really big condo collapse. And those condos and that condo collapsing is what led to a lot of change in regulation and law, and that are now being required by a lot of these condominium buildings. Now, the reason why it's really important is because a lot of them came out with assessments that have now changed the affordability of the condo itself. The condo affordability matters because a lot of times you had people living inside these units that were able to afford it, but after assessments are added and a number of added costs get pumped into it, people that are on fixed incomes can't even afford them. Even when it comes to some condominium places like Century Village, which is a really big retirement community, a lot of people were once living there because they were on fixed income and they could afford it. Well, the problem now is that a lot of the condominium prices have arisen because of assessments and also because of rising costs of insurance. Now, why does that matter? So if somebody's on fixed income, let's say Social Security, and they're living there off of what, $1,000, $1,500 a month, if the insurance rises and assessments get added, then now that $1,200, $1,500 a month that they're making can't even cover the cost of the place that they're living. So a lot of them had to sell and move somewhere else, maybe move in with family members, and now you have another vacant unit. And one vacant unit is just going to happen in that singular instance. It's going to happen to more people, because if a lot of people are on fixed income and the cost rises for everyone proportionally, well, now you're going to have that many more housing units on the market. And when there are more units available than there are buyers, you have a decrease in price because now people have to lower their number just to get that unit sold. So something that's going to be really important is that you make sure you avoid very specifically condos, because you have a lot of these situations that people are facing where the number that they're spending on the condo isn't going to be proportional to how much money they're getting in rental income. Or even when it comes to an investment, let's say they want to buy it for themselves, live in it, and then they're thinking in 3 to 5 years, if they sell it or buy a single family home, they'll actually get some money back out of it, because usually cost in real estate goes up. But when you have a surplus in the market, you're going to have a receding in the price, and that receding in the price may cause you to lose money on your investment deal. So you want to make sure you avoid condos as a whole. Another reason why you want to avoid them, and something that I just brought up recently, is when it comes to the assessments. Now, assessments are what are being tacked on to people because they need to update the roof and they need to update windows. And with all these inspections that have now come out because of laws being passed throughout Miami and through Dade County, Broward, Palm Beach, etc., that now all of these communities are adding assessments because they need repairs to these buildings that they've been kicking that can down the road for months, years at a time, decades. Well, now that bill has come due and you got to front that bill. And the only way to front that bill is to just start adding it to every unit across the entire community. So now instead of your house only costing you about $1,200, now you have to pay a $5,000 assessment, $10,000 assessment on top of what you're already paying with your HOA and your cost of your mortgage. So those are amounts that you're not even going to have any control over. You're just going to get a letter in the mail telling you that you now owe this amount of money, and if you don't pay it, well, then essentially they're going to have to come after you. Because remember, the condominium board, the HOAs, they have all the rule over all the things that you can and can't do with your unit. So if you don't sell it, you don't move on, then they can come after it, and then now you're really going to be in a pickle, because now you're stuck with something you can't afford and also something you can't get rid of. Another thing that you want to make sure that you consider when it comes to condominiums, and also is going to lead me into my next point, are HOAs. Now, HOAs are the board that come out with all of these assessments, but also they also dictate a lot of the rules of what you can and can't do. For instance, I have a house in Boca, and all the time they're always emailing me, Mr. Abrams, your grass is too long. Mr. Abrams, your fence is, it's always got an issue. They always have something they're coming out with, and they're going to always want to control what you can and can't do with your property. For me, I absolutely hate it because I really put a lot of time and energy into fixing up these properties so that they can look really great. However, because I'm a real estate investor, I'm not working to make perfect grass with a perfect fence when the exterior of the house and the interior still looks like shit, because I still have to make sure I do things in the right order. I want to make sure I get the house in order, make sure everything looks great, it's clean, it's painted. Now you do landscaping, right? Who wants to do fresh grass and then paint a house and now you got paint on the grass, right? There's an order of operations when it comes to doing a lot of these properties, and a lot of times these HOAs don't care. They just want everything to look good on the outside. Now, I completely understand, and you also have neighbors who also want to make sure that their neighborhood looks really good. I completely get it. The only problem with that is that when you do things out of order, it's just going to cost you more money. So you have to do a little bit to appease these people so that you can get to the finish line, so you can actually get your check in hand. Another thing you have to realize too when it comes to these HOAs is, just like I mentioned before with the condominiums, is that you have assessments. Those assessments are going to affect you whether you buy that place or sell it. Sometimes you might buy it, you ask them about any upcoming assessments, there are none. You've now owned that property after buying it, rehabbing it for 4 or 5 months. Guess what? Now they had another condo board meeting and they just said an assessment is coming out. Now that's going to affect you and how much you can sell a unit for, because if someone knows that they're going to be buying a place in your building and there's a $25,000 assessment that's going to be added, how's that going to affect you? That's now going to be an added cost that they have to consider, and the underwriter, when they're underwriting their loan, is going to consider trying to figure out, hey, where are you going to come up with this $25,000 in order to buy this unit? So whether you like it or not, or if your buyer is interested or not, there is going to make a difference if there are assessments coming to your unit, and those HOAs are directly responsible for that. Now, something that I always tell people is that if you're looking at a single family home, one of the benefits is that you can determine your own insurance policy. When it comes to HOAs, you don't have that option. They just tell you, Mr. Abrams, pay this. And if you can't pay it, well, that problem is yours, not theirs. Right? So this is why it's going to be really important for you to look at very specific investment properties, and avoiding condos, avoiding HOAs are going to be really important for that exact reason. Another type of property that you want to make sure you avoid are wood frame houses. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, wood frame houses are an absolute nightmare. The amount of time, energy, and effort you're going to put into fixing them up, getting them up and running, and to meet code is just insane. I can think of one house that I just finished in the last couple months where I had to upgrade all of the framing from 2x4 to 2x6 framing. And the cost of it went from what I thought when I initially bought the house was going to be $5,000, turned out and now translated into $75,000. All of that is a cost that I did not plan for in the beginning when I first considered buying this place, because I didn't think it needed it. I literally walked in, I was like, drywall looks pretty good, I guess I'm okay. Well, lo and behold, once you start putting some stuff on, trying to skim your walls, you're like, why is my trowel going through the wall so easily? Well, it turns out once you start pulling all that back and you look at it and you see how termite ridden, wood rotted all of the framing is, now you're gonna have to upgrade it. If you're lucky, you only have to do it in very specific instances, but sometimes you may find out that it's entirely around your exterior walls, or even on your interior walls as well. Or if the city gets involved and they find out that you need to upgrade your framing, they're also going to tell you, well, you need to get an engineer in here so that they can approve a letter saying like, yes, you can keep this, or you have to upgrade it. Well, if you're not considering the cost of what it's going to be to upgrade from 2x4 framing to 2x6 framing, then that's going to be something that's really going to eat into your overall bottom line. So be very mindful when you're buying wood frame houses. The cost of insurance, the cost of repairing them, all the auxiliary numbers are going to be associated with it are going to be astronomical. Always make sure you look for property that are built in like the 1950s and later, because generally, specifically for when it comes to South Florida, when it comes to mid-century houses, a lot of them are going to be with block construction. Block construction, there's only so many things that can really go along with it. Unless you have a sinkhole or you have a really bad foundation, which very rarely happens, but there are instances, I can tell you that those are much safer investments because they don't have all of the headache associated with them that you do on a wood frame house. So if you're looking to get into some real estate investing, be sure to avoid condos, avoid HOAs, and avoid wood frame houses, because all of those will lead to a lot of headaches. Instead, stick to block houses built after the 50s. Even if you have to change the roof or electrical, they're going to be much simpler, and they're going to be a lot easier to do for the simple fact that you don't have to go repairing walls, redoing foundations that you would on some of those other instances, and you're not going to have to deal with the same HOAs that you would with a condo building or other properties that have HOAs themselves. So if you guys are still tuning into the video, I do have one bonus for you, and that's specifically properties on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So Fort Myers, if you're looking for stuff along Sarasota, if you're looking things in the Tampa Bay, St. Petersburg region, these are going to be tailored to you. I do think they are great markets for very specific reasons, but something that I personally would avoid in 2025 are things along what we call the left coast, simply because the insurance right now going into those areas is astronomical. We just had 2 recent hurricanes, and they have absolutely obliterated some of those areas, and the cost of what people are doing to either get rid of their houses or sell it really low because they can't even afford the renovations to get their properties back to normal again. They've got pools full of sand. They've got houses that have been battered. They've got stuff that's been absolutely destroyed. And in order to get those to a state that is now marketable again, rentable again, livable again, they have to do extensive repairs. And that's something that you really do not want to get into. So for any of you that are looking on the Gulf Coast of Florida side of things, just be sure to look in some other areas, maybe look a little bit more inland, maybe you go more north, maybe you go a little bit more east. But when it comes to that Gulf Coast, man, I can tell you right now that you're really going to have a tough time battling against insurance, because when hurricanes are in the Gulf, they really have nowhere to go. So as opposed to on the East Coast, where when you get hurricanes, a lot of times they can go north, they can come down. There are more directions that it can go, as opposed to on the Gulf side, which we noticed in our last hurricane, especially with Hurricane Milton, is that it really had nowhere to go. And as a result, when it went inland, it's gonna land somewhere on our side, on our West Coast side. Or it can go north, like let's say towards Louisiana or Alabama area. But if you limit as far as the areas that it can go by not investing in them, that may be a benefit to you. So be sure when you're looking at all things when it comes to real estate investing, you look at all the factors that can limit your money and also affect your bottom line in the end. So if you guys gain anything from this video, be sure to tune in and like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And until next time, I'll catch you next video.